So I also want to talk a bit about my personal business journey. It's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and that's the reality. When you start going into business for yourself as an entrepreneur, you have to ready yourself for the risk associated with the everyday grind of being accountable at every level, financially, big picture, small details. It is what it is. So here's how it worked for me. I had a trade. I was a practicing attorney. It was cool. I wanted a bigger microphone, a bigger platform. I went into media. I started first as an on-air host and contributor. So at this point in my career, I was working for myself technically, but I had no business entity established. So I was just, kind of working as a contractor. What I realized at some point was the taxes were killing me. So I did some research, and some of this I knew from law school as an attorney, but again, until you do it, you just don't know. Most lawyers spend most of their career working for other people, their employees. It's a transition when you decide to go work for yourself. So I did some research and realized for me, I would really benefit tax-wise from forming an LLC, a limited liability company, to be able to really be able to avail myself to the tax advantages of that, where I wasn't going to be W-2'd all the time anymore. I would be on 1099s as an independent contractor, and everything would make sense. So I formed a classic LLC. A lot of people do this, y'all. I think it's simple. My name. So that's when I incorporated, that is when I launched Eboni K. Williams LLC. Okay. And yes, it was an incorporation actually. So did that, all good. And, from there, every time I appeared on air in any capacity, so it could be radio, it could be digital, it could be television, everything came under the umbrella of Eboni K. Williams LLC, my limited liability company. So that's what I use for me as talent, okay? And that makes a lot of sense. And to this day, Eboni K. Williams LLC still exists. That is the invoicing I use for my Revolt Black News work as host and executive producer. It is also the company that I use for my public speaking engagement. So I do a lot of public speaking, and so I use Eboni K. Williams LLC for all of that. Then it became clear to me that I also had another branch really to what I do professionally, and that is create original content. So this is not just front facing of the packaging. This is being responsible and accountable for, kind of the full scope of the content. So as I was deciding to launch my podcast, right, Holding Court with Eboni K. Williams, a new entity, it felt bigger than just Eboni K. Williams LLC work. At this point, I decided I wanted to have my own production company. So I launched another legal entity, another LLC, limited liability company. And this one I decided to name Uppity Productions because, I am so much a pusher of the envelope when it comes to the expected social rankings and societal rankings of Black folks. So I thought it was a perfect fit. So I launched Uppity, and Uppity Productions houses all of my original content. So my podcast, like I told you, Holding Court with Eboni K. Williams is ran through Uppity Productions. And so I've got those two distinct things. I also have two separate business accounts, right? So Eboni K. Williams LLC has a banking account, checking account. Uppity Productions has a very different banking account. So all the bills that come through for Holding Court are paid out of Uppity LLC. The Eboni K. Williams LLC bank account doesn't see the light of day for the Uppity expenses, for the Holding Court expenses. So listen, those are just some tips, y'all. If your content or whatever you're doing business-wise, your storefront, let's say, one of your storefronts is for lifestyle wear, right? Active wear, fine. If it gets to the point where you feel like you're in a different market space, I think that's the key, right? Your different market space. So let's just say it's a hairline now. You're doing, clip-ins or whatever it is. If you're inclined to, you don't have to, but if you're inclined to, it might make sense to think about doing a separate business entity, a separate LLC or S Corp, which an S corporation, another type of business tax structure that could avail yourself some benefit. Look into it. Make sure that as you're having different marketplace presences, opportunities where you're showing up in different places of the market, it might make sense to have two different business entities, as was the case for me. So listen, I could talk about this all day. I love entrepreneurship. I especially love it for people of color because it is an opportunity for a source of freedom economically and spiritually.